Howdy folks, Jamboree here, and today I'm going to be doing a Patron requested review of Disney's The Wild. Samson the Lion is a popular zoo star who has convinced everyone that he's a legend of the wild, including his very own son, Ryan. However, it's all a bunch of lies, and Samson's made mythos has actually made Ryan feel like he's had too much to live up to, so Ryan escapes to the wild to embrace his roots. Samson, along with his friends Benny, Bridget, Nigel and Larry, head off to the wild to find Ryan. Once they arrive though, Nigel becomes a god to a cult of wildebeest led by the evil Kazar, who wants Nigel to teach him the ways of the carnivores. Now, the biggest criticism that this film has faced has been called a Madagascar ripoff. While I totally see the very strong similarities between the two films, I think that The Wild's eerie resemblance to Madagascar is the least of its problems. Even when you put aside the copycat accusations, The Wild is still a bad movie on its own. I remember giving this film a 3 out of 5 score in my blog review of it many years ago, but my rewatch of the movie for this video has made me realize that that was a far too generous grade.
We are going to die!
The Wild is a poor excuse of a kids movie that executes its premise with the grace of an elephant. Firstly, a lot of critics have praised the film for its animation, which sure, is very realistically rendered for 2006 CGI, and the animation company core deserve credit for that. However, it's a very strange choice of animation style for what kind of vibe the movie wants to go for. You see, The Wild is a very wacky and zany film that puts a lot of emphasis on rubbery slapstick and energetic silliness, while the characters themselves are somewhat hyper-realistic looking, so all the cartoony stretching and warping just pushes the film into an unsettling uncanny valley realm. This animation style would have worked fine for a nature doc or maybe even a drama, but here is just a recipe for unintentionally creepy imagery. Heck, I have to admit that I struggle to watch the film at times, because there's something unnatural about how the film cartoonifies these semi-scientifically accurate looking animals. Not to mention, the camera will sometimes get a tad too close to our characters, and the animals themselves have a habit of mugging in our faces. To call this film an eyesore is kind of an understatement.
I'm not coming, I'm a vicious jungle animal!
I'd actually say that the comedy itself is what ruins The Wild the most. Look, small kids are bound to snort at the characters' bouncy antics, or violent whacking of each other, but I can't exactly say that the humour is actually, well, good. Too much of the comedy comes off as desperate and try-hard. It's like the movie is scrambling to find a comedic rhythm, so it just resorts to flinging a series of over-the-top gags at the audience, all while characters aimlessly ramble or rant in hopes of landing at least one punchline. I'd say that Nigel is the biggest culprit of doing this.
You do not speak to me!
Which irks me a lot, because Nigel's voice actress, Susie Eddie Izzard, is one of my favourite comedians of all time, and her material for Nigel does not represent how amazing her real stand-up is.
Cake or death? Cake, please. Very well. Give him cake. Oh, thanks very much. Very nice.
It doesn't help that the comedy is aged like milk from 2006. I mean, there's a creepy amount of sexual assault jokes.
Betty, oh my gosh! Who knows mouth to mouth?
I do.
Oh. What was that?
And don't get me started on the film's borderline racist stereotypes.
I know!
That's the thing. There's a mean spirit to the film that really sours its attempts at sentimentality or wholesomeness. I mean, I really struggle to believe in the friendship between our heroes, who seem to be only friends with each other because, well, they're the protagonists. Even as someone who has mixed feelings about Madagascar, I can at least say that I buy that Alex and Go have been best friends for a very long time. I can tell that they love each other deep down despite their quarrels.
Now, he may be a pain in the butt at times, and trust me, I know. But this cat proved to me without a doubt that his heart is bigger than his stomach.
The Wild's lead characters, on the other hand, have no chemistry whatsoever and don't seem to even respect each other, let alone like each other. Sure, Benny could be a good, supportive mate to Samson, but he's also a relentless creep towards his crush Bridget.
Bridget, if you go, I'm breaking up with you.
We were never going out in the first place.
Yes, the squirrel does eventually show appreciation towards Bridget, but only because the film wants some extra syrup for its happy ending. He never actually has any kind of epiphany or character growth throughout the film. Oh, and Nigel is weirdly happy to abuse his new god power as an excuse to hurt his supposed friends.
Whack, 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 whack.
These animals just don't come off as a tight-knit group founded on unconditional love. Speaking of affectionate bonds, that brings me onto our father-son aspect of the film. It's clear that the family conflict between Samson and Ryan is the core of the Wild's emotions, but the film is too aimless to explore its full potential. The film really wants to drive home how unhealthy and wrong it is to set children up with extreme expectations. Whether we're talking about Samson's self-insert fanfiction that Ryan will never be able to live up to because it's all just pure fantasy, or the traumatizing way that Samson's own dad raised him.
Dad, I can't do it!
Now, go!
There's a lot to unpack when it comes to Samson's decision to fabricate a superhero version of himself, and how such a raised bar of adulthood is hurting Ryan's coming of age.
I'm thinking how great it would be if Samson the Wild wasn't my father.
Unfortunately, when we reach the Wild, the film doesn't end up diving into Samson's chronic lying or Ryan's insecurities as the teenage son of a lion who pretends to be a legend. No, the film is far more about Samson trying to live up to his own self-invented lore and showing that he has wild instincts deep down. Sure, there's some merit to Samson proving that he can be tough and survival savvy, despite how much his dad belittled him as a kid. But it's a direction that neglects the emotional baggage that's currently between Ryan and his dad, plus ignores how the film initially set out to criticize pressured expectations of masculine strength. Oh, and it's extra iffy how Ryan's main role in the finale is to help his dad feel better about himself.
It's okay, Dad. I just want you to know I'm sorry you didn't have a father like the one I have.
Which is a shame, because it would have been fascinating to see a father and son bonding in the wild together while opening up about their feelings. There's a great estranged father-son plot here that's buried deep under the mediocre one we actually got.
Dad, you should be chasing them, like you used to.
Those were just stories.
But now's your chance to show me for real.
Sadly, our villain is yet another casualty of the movie's obnoxious style of comedy, something that's very annoying, because he has one of the most unique and interesting baddie motivations I've ever come across. A prey who wants to become a predator. I love the idea of a survivor of the wild's carnivores becoming so desperate to remain alive, he's willing to defy nature itself and climb the food chain by sheer force.
At long last, the cosmic balance has shifted.
Stay close.
Prey has become predator, and predator has become prey.
However, the movie's adamant need to be constantly silly blocks Kazar from being the best villain he can be. Sure, there are glimpses of a threatening villain here and there, but the film's jokey nature can kind of undercut that menace.
I lost count for one verse. Step, kick, pivot, kick, walk. Oh! Why do we even bother rehearsing?
It's almost like he's in the wrong movie and deserves to be in a darker film to let his complex villainy flourish more. I blame the comedy for a lot of things in the film failing, but to be frank, I would say that the movie's awkward story structure is just as much at fault. Let me explain. Despite the movie's title, most of the film actually focuses on our hero's adventure to the wild, and we don't reach the wild itself until 3/4 into the film, resulting in the movie squashing all of its established plots into the last 30 minutes. Hence why the father-son conflict goes severely underexplored, and our villain doesn't get enough time to develop a meaty rivalry against the main hero. Yet the film tries to make things personal for Samson in the finale, but he still only just met Kazar. So this climax is nowhere near as meaningful or dynamic as other Disney hero-villain showdowns, because the rivalry is so last minute. To conclude, The Wild will mildly entertain kids who don't expect much, and just want Madagascar-flavoured brain rot to pass the time, but not a single inch of me can defend its quality as a children's movie. It's a loud, brash, and busy film that shamelessly wastes some truly promising storytelling ideas, all while thinking very little of its young audience. I hope you enjoyed this review, folks. I've been Jamboree, cheerio.